ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. I have been very eager to chat with Robbie Parker because of what's been in the news, especially lately. Robbie Parker is the father of a 6-year-old child that was killed in the mass shooting at the Sandy Hook Elementary School. He's also the author of a new book called A Father's Fight, Taking on Alex Jones and Reclaiming the Truth. This is obviously an interesting week to talk about this because of what's going on with Infowars. That's Alex Jones' company being bankrupted and possibly being bought by The Onion. Robbie Parker, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Robbie, obviously it goes without saying, I'm sorry for what you and your family have gone through as the father of a 3-year-old. This is the kind of thing that I have nightmares about. But how have you and your family coped in the time since the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. There's a lot of layers to how we've been able to kind of get through this, and a lot of people will say things about like how strong they think we are, and I don't feel strong a lot of the days that we've been doing this, but it's been a beautiful process to see how we have come together and how we've worked our way through the unimaginable loss and then the horrific suffering above grief that we've had to endure because of Alex Jones.
I want to talk about Alex Jones, obviously, but in the aftermath of your daughter's death, initially you kept your distance from the other Sandy Hook parents. Can you describe what led to that decision and what changed over time to bring you all together in support of one another?
Sure. And that decision wasn't done because of anything negative. It was, we hadn't been in the area very long. We had only lived in Sandy Hook for about 7 or 8 months. And so we just really hadn't gotten our roots settled. And the reason so I didn't know any of the other families before the shoot. And then the reason that I distanced myself from them afterwards was because I was the first parent that spoke out. So I became the biggest target of Alex Jones. And in my mind, that meant that the suffering that all the families were facing because of the harassment, I put that on my shoulders and I blamed myself for that. And because of that, I pulled away because I felt shame because of how I felt like it was my fault that this happened.
I think a lot of people are familiar that Alex Jones said something that was dismissive, basically calling the shooting fictitious. But for people that haven't followed this case, what exactly did Alex Jones say? So
for me in particular, he took a moment in a statement that I gave after the shooting where I was facing some cameras. The situation was not something that I had anticipated. It wasn't what I had agreed to do. I was very nervous, and I kind of gave this nervous chuckle and smile as a way to try and calm myself down before I addressed the media. He took that and claimed that I was a crisis actor, meaning that I was somebody that was in cahoots with the government to stage this event and that it was fake because I wanted to take away people's Second Amendment rights. So he lied about me. He defiled Emily's memory, and he did that to rile up people to put a target on my back and to hate me.
At 30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is Robbie Parker. His book is A Father's Fight, Taking on Alex Jones and Reclaiming the Truth. So when he says that about you, what's the reaction? Does your life change in any marked way?
Yeah, I was still not even grasping and understanding how much my life had changed just from learning that Emily died. Emily died on a Friday morning, and by Sunday morning, I was already receiving harassments and threats. And before we even buried Emily a week later, I had already received death threats. And so we had just experienced the worst thing that I felt like somebody could do to somebody else. Somebody went into my daughter's school and murdered her and her classmates. I didn't know that person. He didn't know me. He didn't hate Emily. He didn't hate me. But Alex Jones, by what he did, made sure that people knew who I was and gave them a reason to hate me. And so that was a very real threat in my mind when these people started to attack us and then attack the other families. And again, I felt responsible for the suffering that they were facing because of this.
So the harassment from conspiracy theorists, it sounds pretty relentless. How did it impact your daily life and your sense of safety and your sense of trying to get back to something resembling normal footing?
Right. No, that's a great question, because sometimes it's very obvious when you get a letter mailed to your house, and in that letter is somebody describing how much they fantasize about bashing your head in with a baseball bat. That feels like a very, very real threat. They demonstrated they knew how to find me and where I lived and where my family slept. And the big part of the trauma about that is really subtle, and you're not really fully aware of it, but that your life changes, and everywhere you go, you're worried about who it is out there that believes this, who out there may recognize you. I had experiences on the street randomly years after Sandy Hook of people recognizing me and coming up to me and saying things to me. So you're always on alert. So that like flight, fight system is always on, and it changes your biology. It changes how you see the world, how you interact with the world, how I interacted with my children, and how I interacted with myself.
Obviously, you can't get inside Alex Jones's head, but why do you think he said this? I mean, from what I can tell, it's just totally made up. It's not something that was misunderstood or misinterpreted or even exaggerated. It seems like it's totally created whole cloth fictionally. Why did he say it?
Yeah, and it's because his entire world is based off this fiction that he creates. It's very hard to, you can't even get an answer from him why he says it. But it is his shtick. It's a brand that he created starting back in the early 90s when he first got onto public radio. And a lot of people just found him really kind of entertaining. But he developed a following, and with that following, he developed a powerful voice, and he earned a lot of money along the way. And so it's easy to just say he does it because of power and money, but that motivating factor behind it, there's a lot of theories. Mine is that I really think that deep down, like a lot of us, I think he has a lot of wounds, and he tries to fill up his wounds by searching out these followers and getting this power and money to do something about that. That's my personal take on it.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
We off? 30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes.
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Obviously, you ultimately chose to take legal action. You chose initially not to participate in the lawsuits against Alex Jones early on. What was the tipping point that made you feel like you had to take legal action?
Yeah, there were many things along the way. The two biggest ones I would say is I had a conversation with some parents from Parkland down in Florida. Their daughter was killed at the high school there, at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. So this was 6 years after Sandy Hook. And I was listening to these parents talk about the harassment that they were receiving. And in those 6 years, I tried to stay silent and I tried to stay hidden away. I didn't want to bring attention to myself. I didn't want my family to be in harm's way. And I saw other people suffering, and I knew that their grief was being impacted. And then that's the most evil thing I feel like somebody can do to somebody else, is come in and interrupt their grief process from losing their child. And I felt like I needed to do something, but I wasn't there yet. But it really fired me up. Another encounter that really tipped the scales for me was I was with my family, and we stopped at like a Wendy's to get a treat. And my daughter was too scared to get out of the car. And I asked her, I'm like, why aren't you getting out of the car? And she pointed at the car next to us. And that car had an Infowars bumper sticker. And she said, somebody in there listens to Alex Jones, and that's the guy that bullies you. And I don't want them to recognize you, and I don't want to see you get bullied, and I don't want to go in. And I realized that everything I had done to protect my family wasn't, and it was impacting them. And after that, I realized my daughter saw me always fighting for Emily, and I needed her to know that I was willing to fight for her too.
If folks are just tuning in, I'm Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is Robbie Parker. His book is A Father's Fight, Taking on Alex Jones and Reclaiming the Truth. At the trial, I know that Alex Jones testified. What did he say in defense of his actions? What was his under oath rationale for doing this?
He was very bombastic, and he was on attack mode. His defense was to try and just spout more of his lies, and he took it as a way to just promote himself and make himself the victim. He constantly claims that like he has the First Amendment right to say whatever he wants, and even though now that he admits that these events happened and that they occurred, he still had the right to deny them. And so that was his take. But he's never fully really apologized. He says that he has, and that he was done apologizing on the stand, and were his words, and that he doesn't owe us anything.
Ultimately, obviously, you guys won a major judgment, and there was a lot of discussion about bankruptcy. Where do things stand now with the family's attempt to collect that money from Alex Jones and Infowars going into bankruptcy and potentially being purchased by the Onion?
Yeah, so it's been ruled that Jones isn't allowed to use bankruptcy court to dissolve the debt that he owes. He owes almost $1.5 billion in damages to Sandy Hook families. So the route that we have is in the bankruptcy court to liquidate his assets. And so this last week, there was an auction to purchase Jones's company, the brand that he's been building for 30 years, and how he's made tens of millions of dollars off of his lies and hurting people. That's no longer going to be his. And so that's something that we were able to accomplish in this, because money was never a motivating factor. And I know everybody says that, but it never was for us. It was to stop the harm that he was causing, not just my family, but many, many people.
You mentioned Alex Jones claiming that he has the First Amendment right to say things that aren't true. How do you reconcile his right to speak freely with the real world damage that resulted from those statements, particularly to you and your family?
Right. I mean, you have a right to believe what you want, and you can say what you want, but you don't have a right to defame and maliciously and purposely hurt people. And that's why his charges in bankruptcy court weren't dissolvable, because the judge said that this was malicious and it was intentional. And so, I mean, I am more than happy to defend First Amendment rights, but I don't think that the First Amendment should be used in ways that it was never intended to. It was never meant to purposely harm people. And so I see how it's impacted my family, and you see how it's impacted just about everybody. This misinformation and the way that people get attacked on social media, that can't be tolerated.
The First Amendment obviously protects the right to express opinions, no matter how controversial. How do you respond to critics who argue that the lawsuit here, even though obviously factually you're right and it's terrible what your family has gone through and what these other families have gone through, but how do you respond to critics who think that the lawsuit could infringe on the right to free speech for others who may express controversial views?
Yeah, and we're in a new wave of testing the strength of the First Amendment on that, right? Through social media and getting these different platforms and stuff. And so those are things that are going to have to continue to get worked out. And again, you do have a right to say whatever you want, but there are also consequences to things that you say. And there are things that you are not allowed to say by law. And that's where Alex Jones met his match, was that he was knowingly saying things that were false. He was defaming people, and he was causing a lot of harm. And when the truth came out about that, then he has to suffer the consequences. I mean, every lie incurs a debt to the truth. And sooner or later that debt gets paid. And that's what happened in this case.
Since you mentioned the social media companies, that's something the world, as you alluded to, is trying to figure out right now. When it comes to the media, how do you view the responsibility of social media platforms and broadcasters, for that matter, in policing harmful content? Do you think the First Amendment should shield them from consequences when their platforms amplify dangerous misinformation?
Yeah, and I've even testified to the Senate about this. They hold a tremendous amount of responsibility to keep people safe, and they've shown that they have failed tremendously in keeping people safe. I had a representative from Twitter at that Senate hearing apologize to me for not doing enough to protect our family, and recognizing that his apology comes way too late, but hopefully the changes that they're making will keep other people safe. I don't expect anybody to be perfect in this, and that it is a learning curve, but they're way behind on the learning curve, and they need to catch up. And until they do, people are suffering, and that responsibility does lie on them.
As it stands now, has Alex Jones ever apologized to you personally or to the other families?
Another lie is that he claims that he has. He's attempted to try and apologize on his show before, but anybody that knows what a sincere, genuine apology looks like and what taking accountability is would agree that no, he's never come close to apologizing or taking any accountability for anything that he's done towards the Sandy Hook families.
Alex Jones's legal team reportedly weaponized your childhood trauma during the defamation trial. Can you describe how that felt and how you responded to that?
Yeah, in the deposition that I had to sit for, in the discovery process, we had to turn over our medical records and things that I had talked about in counseling and those kinds of things. Alex Jones never really complied with the discovery process. He never gave the court the things that he was supposed to give. So in that, I was asked by his lawyer about childhood trauma, about childhood sexual abuse, and how I could differentiate the pain and suffering I was claiming to feel from Alex Jones from things that I had, experienced in my life in the past. And I do feel like those were used to trip me up and to take accountability away from Jones for what he did. And that was the first moment in my entire life that in real time, I was actually able to stand up and tell the truth and not give in to fear and being scared or being overpowered by somebody who thought that he was bigger than me.
Wow. No, I can't imagine what that must have been like. You've indicated that in spite of all this, that you feel pity for Alex Jones. What drives that emotion, especially given the harm that he's caused you and so many others?
Yeah, it was this moment in court when he finally was forced to come into the courtroom. Every day almost during the trial, he would stand in front of the courthouse and hold press conferences and own his victimhood. But one day he actually had to come into court when he testified. And I really imagined what that was going to feel like and was anticipating big moment. And when he walked in, he was walking like bow-legged, like it hurt to walk, and he was disheveled, and you could just see the amount of what his lies have done to him. Like it's wrecked him as a person. I mean, I could see that and I could feel that from him. He looked just like a shell of a man. And I had this very human moment where I saw like that suffering and I saw what it had done to him, and I felt sorrow for him. Those feelings unfortunately evaporated when he got on the stand and did what he did. But I gave him one last chance to try and be human, and he didn't allow me to see that through. And so I do feel pity for him, because he does live a life that doesn't experience love and doesn't experience joy. He's full of hate and he's full of rage, and he gets his listeners to be full of hate and full of rage. And I think that his listeners and the people that buy into him are victims of Alex Jones as well.
As it stands now, does Alex Jones have a lot of money?
Yeah. We've done a lot of work trying to find out where a lot of his money goes. He has a lot of money compared to some, not as much as people might assume, but it's really hard to get a good grasp on that.
He has hidden assets and things like that?
I mean, I can't speak to a lot of that because I don't really know. I know that there's been people out looking for that. And so whether we find a pot of gold somewhere, I don't know. But I know he's doing everything he can to protect his assets and to make sure that none of what he has comes to us.
In your book, A Father's Fight, obviously you tell your story and what your family's gone through. What are you hoping readers take from this?
Right. No, I love that question, because my story sounds it's a sensational story. I have lived it and I've written about it, and I still find it unbelievable. But what I really hope that people can take out of this is not just that there's somebody out there that has this crazy story that they can't connect with, but that we have all suffered from hard things. The hardest thing that I've experienced in my life is the hardest thing, and the hardest thing that you've experienced is your hardest thing. We are all set with the same tools and emotions that are given to us to work through these hard things. And as I did find my voice and I opened up to myself and to other people around me, I found connection and I found healing. And so many people suffer in silence. And I want people to know that if you find your voice, that you can connect to hope and healing again. And that even though you might not think that you have anything in common with me or what I've been through, if we talk for 5 minutes, we will find areas of our lives where we overlap, and that we can help each other in that pursuit of healing from things that we've suffered from. And that's really what the takeaway of the book is.
Wow. Wow. Robbie, this is great. I hope people definitely check out the book. It's called A Father's Fight, Taking on Alex Jones and Reclaiming the Truth. Again, I'm sorry for what you and your family have had to go through, but I think you've done a real public service, not only with pursuing this litigation, but in chronicling all this for the book, and obviously your congressional testimony as well. Wishing you and your family the best of luck, Robbie.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. If you want to comment on any portion of our discussion, you can give me a call. Our number is 646-720-0635. That's 1-646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.